Alright, what is up, YouTube? So, we are on day number 5, and today I'm going to talk about reading. Yes, the ultra exciting topic of reading, something that everybody loves to do no matter who you are, it does not matter. Now, I'm not going to come off like someone who has been reading forever. Recently, it is a habit that I've picked up, and it really has changed my life for the better, I would say. When I was young, like in elementary school, reading was really fun. When I was young, around that age that I was reading, there was a lot less technology around, and there were less distractions. There was a lot of TV, and like cartoons were exciting, but reading had a lot of appeal, especially when you're young and you have a healthy imagination. Reading can really take you to like some magical places and have really cool stories. Then later in life, distractions happen and other things are more interesting, and I really kind of lost focus and wasn't really interested in reading, and I don't know, I just didn't want to. And then in high school, we would get all of these reading assignments. I never really did any of them. I kind of BS my way through most of high school, if I'm being honest. I used my test-taking skills and like my analytical skills to pretty much figure out what the book was probably saying or where the book was probably going. And somehow I got through high school without reading very much at all. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I don't think I finished a book. The coming of age kind of stuff was really not me. And then later in my school year, I became part of the computer magnet program at school. In that program, you can kind of take many different routes, and one of the routes I ended up going down was journalism, and I joined the school newspaper. Reading and being able to analyze words and that kind of thing has always kind of been, I guess, a forte. I never really did it until recently, and so I got way more invested in my success and becoming a better person, and I kept, bumping into this fact that just about everyone who's ultra successful in their life has attributed reading to their success, basically. But I wanted to talk about something I actually learned about in journalism, which I think is a really important distinction to make. The way we're taught is learning is all about like memorization, and instead of figuring out the analysis of things and figuring out how to think and come up with conclusions on our own and figure out how things work and really break it down from that standpoint, we tend to dive for the information and try and memorize that information to regurgitate it later, i.e. on a test. And in my opinion, that's the most useless thing you can do. Like, I think memory is a useful skill. However, going into this digital age, I don't know if that's going to be true. Because if you think about it, we have reference to all the simple facts. We have calculators, dictionaries. We can convert any measurement on our phone all the time. It's always, it's not always going to be available. And if the technology goes away, then I'm wrong. But still, learning how to adapt to those changes and learning how to learn and learning how to think is far more important than memorizing how many feet are in a mile, or what the conversion rate of this is, or what the equation to get the area of a circle is. Granted, some of those things are really helpful off the top of your head, depending on what it is. If that's something that's useful to know right on hand and you deal with it all day, then chances are you're going to memorize it anyway. My main point is that learning how to think is really important. And so with books, I think getting the most out of it is really the key. It's interesting, from the perspective of a writer, in journalism, what we were told by our journalism teacher about writing was that he really insisted that we read, and that it was very important. And, a lot of teachers do that, but he gave us the explanation of, if you have read the classics, if you have read the classic literature, and you are then educated and experienced to that, it just puts you on a different level. It brings you to a different mindset almost. It just changes your experience. And whether you can recall specific information from that, it doesn't really matter because your perspective is changed by those books. Now, if you have read this book and you are now writing to an audience and that audience has read that book, they might start getting certain things, or recognizing maybe a term, or understand a reference, or, for example, the analogies of the Bible are really common. Even if you are not theological in any way, referring to the Bible happens all the time, and people understand it. And so being educated on the Bible will essentially help you understand those references. Even if, someone just says thing like, we're not trying to turn water into wine here or whatever, then you'll understand what that means. And so it's the same thing. You need to be well exposed to literature, basically, if you want to be a more effective writer. I think it's the same way. Like, for example, I've read a lot of, self-help or financial education books, and while I may not remember every step that they talked about or remembered every little thing, I still take tidbits here and there. There's little bits of information that just changed my perspective. And so just having read the book has just changed my mind, and it's all there in my subconscious, even though I can't withdraw particular pieces of information that I learned from that book. So anyway, the point is, it just changes your perspective, not directly learning and memorizing a fact, which I think is really interesting to think about reading. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. It's been a lovely day out. And yeah, thank you for your time. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe, comment, do whatever. Also, I will have a link in the description below. They will be affiliate links, so I will receive a small commission for any of them. But basically, they're going to be books that I have found helpful, that I would genuinely recommend to anyone I care about, that I think should read. And thank you.